Good afternoon. And welcome to everyone who's joining us on the internet. Before we go into the text, I have a couple of comments. The first one is, it might seem that we're not spending much time making what we're discussing relevant to your daily life. There is a reason for this. You have ample opportunities during the week to relate what we're talking about to your daily life. But it's rather like getting a new computer or getting a new sewing machine, and you say, I want to get a computer to write a book with. Or I don't want to work on an old typewriter. Or I want to get a sewing machine so that I can make clothes. And you bring the computer home and you bring the sewing machine home, not having had any experience on them before. All enthused about writing the book or making the blouse or the shirt. And you find that you have to sit down and with the computer, you have to learn how Windows XP works, or you have to learn how the operating system works before you can even open up Microsoft Word or any other program where you can begin to write the book. Or you have to learn how to insert the bobbin, and you have to learn how to thread the machine, and you have to learn how to use the knee lift, and so on and so forth, all of which seem to have nothing to do with the project that you got the machine for, which was to make a garment. So we're going through the course, which is at the bottom line helping you to see that there is a different way of looking at things than the way you have been used to. And what is being read has come directly from one who knows the truth. One who sees as the Father sees, because he is not claiming a right to a mind of his own. And so the perspective provided gives you new language and new ideas. And if you do nothing more than just become familiar with the new language and the new ideas, and you put them together and begin to live your life on the basis of those new ideas, your life will improve. But it won't be improving because you yourself have made a connection with the Holy Spirit or with the Father directly. You can learn to use a sewing machine, and you can learn how to read patterns, and you can learn how to assemble the fabric so that it ends up looking like the garment you wanted. But all you're doing is following a blueprint someone else has set forth for you. And you can't say that you have come to an experiential place of expertise that comes from an inner grasp of how and why things fit together the way they fit. And as a result, you will not have the freedom to alter the pattern to make it fit even more specifically to you, or to create a brand new garment. And this is important. You're not here to become familiar with the words in A Course in Miracles so that you can repeat them and so that you can apply them in your daily life, even though doing that will cause improvement. It's like being able to run your machine, follow the pattern, and end up with a garment. At the bottom line, all you are being is a copycat. All you are being is someone following a direction. A direction that's there because someone else did listen. A lesson, a pattern that is there because someone else did understand how things fit together, how things work in the construction of a garment that will look good on you. The purpose of the Course is, first of all, to provide you with new language and therefore new ideas that allow you to see that there is indeed another way to look at everything. But the essential step is for you to arrive at a point where you lean into the same place the author of the Course did, or the same place Helen Schuckman did, where you don't know anything on your own, and you don't know what is going to come up next, and you open up, you become defenseless, and you let in the Father's will. You let in the essential originality of the state of being that you are, or that is you. So that then what comes out of your mouth is as helplessly original as what came out of Helen's mouth. And so that you, when you're relating to your brother or sister, speak because the words come, not because you figured out what they ought to be. Now, how many of you don't have to raise your hands, but how many of you would dearly love to be a healer? To be a presence in the world that is healing, recognizably healing. Well, it's very simple. In order to be a healer, you have to be sure that you're responding to the problem from a level other than the problem arose from. And you could say there are only two levels, apparently two levels. And one is the level of you existing independent of God, perhaps created by God, but set in an independent mode by God so that you, separate from God, could begin to utilize and develop your God-given talents and abilities. This separate sense of self is one that you've created out of imagination, as we've already discussed. And it is one that you have gotten other brothers and sisters to join you in believing in, while you join them in believing in their independence. And this level is called the human condition. It's also called the ego frame of reference. And it's made up, as we've discussed before, of nothing more than mutually agreed upon definitions of the kingdom of heaven that are different from what the Father has created the kingdom of heaven to be. That's one level. That's the level of problems, because that's the level that's been built on a fundamental perception of yourself that is untrue. And that fundamental perception of yourself that is untrue is that you exist independent from your source. Whether your source created you and set you free to be independent, or whether you just chose to believe it, it doesn't matter. The point is, you have accepted this as your premise. The other level is the level of what we've called the other operating system, the Holy Spirit, which is nothing more than your right mind, and which is devoted to one thing only, the Father, or its source, your source, that which is being you, period. Now, if you want to be a healer, and you know that you can't heal a problem from the level of the problem, it's obvious then that the only way to be a healer is to move out of the level of mutually agreed upon definitions, to move out of the ego frame of reference, and to lean into the Holy Spirit in you, which is nothing more than your right mind, so that you might gather from your right mind the Father's perspective, the true perspective. Because from there, that which will resolve the problem or the sickness or the disease or the trauma or whatever the trouble might be, that the solution to that can only come from looking at it with your source, looking at it with the Father. Now, all of this is laying a groundwork for what we're going to be reading. Something which escapes everyone's attention is the fact that everything you see is affected by the way you are defining yourself to yourself. Whatever your definition of yourself is, causes you to see everything else in the shadow of that definition, if I may put it that way. You look at another, or you look at something, and you observe it, and you observe the way it behaves, and you come to conclusions about it as though those conclusions relate only to the thing you were observing, and you do not realize that the definition of yourself that you are embracing is affecting the definition you're giving to everything else. Put simply, because you are attempting to exist and be conscious of life, from an independent vantage point, independent of your source, you feel separate, alone, lost, and insecure or afraid. Now, it's an uncomfortable feeling. So you develop ways to be that cover it up. You develop a way to be with bravado or with force or with assertiveness, so that others will not be afraid, will not be aware that you are basically afraid. Then another comes up and behaves in a way that is threatening to you. Is it because they're really being threatening? Or is it because the way they're behaving is causing you to connect with your own deep fear? And there is the fear that they will uncover the front. They will uncover the fear that's behind the front of assuredness that you're putting forth. Now, they may just be being enthusiastic. They may just be expressing a freedom that you're not letting yourself have. And that you will not let yourself have. You cannot conceive of letting yourself have it. And you know that if you continue to be around this person expressing this freedom that you won't let yourself have, this confidence that you won't let yourself feel, that it will become obvious to them. You won't be able to keep it covered up. And so your, quote, weakness, unquote, will become obvious to them, which is the last thing you want. And so you experience their behavior as threatening. You see? Let's say that you don't have a large income. And let's say you have defined your financial state as one of poverty. You're poor. And you have decided that you are poor because there's something you lack within your nature or character. It's a flaw, and the poverty is evidence of this flaw in you. And somebody else comes around and has abundance and speaks about this or that or the other thing that they have purchased and that they now own and how good they feel about it. And you hear that as insensitive on their part. You see them as uncaring and thoughtless and unkind. And that isn't what they're being at all. But the way you experience them is colored by the way you are defining yourself. Now, this is very important. You must not forget that the determinations you make about everything you see and experience in the world are absolutely governed by the definitions you are giving to yourself. And as a result, your responses to them will not be responses to them. They will be responses or reactions to your feelings of inadequacy and incapacity and fear and vulnerability. And that means no communication will occur at all, because you're responding to a picture of them that you have in your mind that has been created by what? The very definitions that you have given yourself. Any response you give from that place will be unable to heal anything at all. The only way healing can be brought into any situation is when you have been able to get free of your very own definition of yourself, so that you might be available to the experience of what you really are. Now listen carefully. It might sound as though what I've just said means that no matter how someone else might be behaving, it's perfectly all right. And the problematic nature of it is due entirely to the way you are looking at everything based upon your current definition of yourself, and that would be wrong. Because anyone else you come in contact with is not awake either. And so they are engaged in exactly the same activity you are, and everything they see is absolutely governed by the definitions they are embracing about themselves. And so, just as your picture of them is your picture projected on them, their picture of you is their picture of you projected on you. A picture governed by the definitions they are using to define themselves. And therefore, everything that they are doing is not all right. The key is, how do any of you get free of the dilemma of trying to deal with the problem from the level of the problem? You get free of it by realizing that there's another operating system and choosing to be from there. Because from there, your responses can correct any projection they are engaged in, and it will keep you from projecting any false perceptions you are projecting upon them, because you will be free of them. And that is what will open the door up for correction of all projection, and will allow you to speak in a way that will help another who is projecting to become free of that. You cannot correct the problem from the level of the problem. You cannot correct the problems of human existence from the level of human existence, or from the level of the human condition. And the level of the human condition is not something out there in the world. The level of the human condition is nothing more and nothing less than the mutually agreed upon definitions that you are all engaged in agreeing upon and reinforcing and redefining, all as a means of neglecting to acknowledge your source and connect with it once again. Okay. Chapter 6. And I am reading from the transcript as finished by Bill Thetford. In it, this chapter is entitled Attack and Fear. In the first and second edition of the course, it is entitled The Lessons of Love. The relationship of anger to attack is obvious, but the inevitable association of anger and fear is not always so clear. Well, we've discussed that when you are in a state of fear, which you must keep covered up so no one else will know it and take advantage of you, that very state of mind causes behavior of others that may not be any form of attack at all to be perceived as a call for defense. In other words, to be perceived as an attack, because it might overwhelm you, it might uncover the fact that you're not as confident as you present yourself to be. It might uncover the fact that you are experiencing fear. And so, if you're constantly confronted with the threat of your fearful state being uncovered, you will practice the defense called anger. It's very simple. You will do whatever you can to get this other one to stop. And anger is a forceful way of expression that can often effectively alter another's behavior. Continuing, anger always involves projection of separation, which must ultimately be accepted as entirely one's own responsibility. You see, the only reason you experience fear is because you've chosen to look at everything on your own. You've chosen to be separate. You've chosen and then forgotten that you actually have a source that you are inseparably connected to. So, everything that follows is going to be affected by and colored by the fear that is inseparable from your choosing to be autonomous. It's that simple. That's called projection of separation. And this separation must ultimately be accepted as entirely one's own responsibility. It can't be blamed on anyone else, because no one else but you decided to say, "Father, I'd rather see it my way." You see? Continuing, anger cannot occur unless you believe that you have been attacked, that your attack was justified, and that you are in no way responsible. In other words, anger cannot occur unless you believe that you have been attacked. Okay, so far. That your attack in return, which you call a defense, was justified, and that you are in no way responsible for the fact that any of that happened at all. And yet you are absolutely participating in it because you have been looking at your attacker